All right, Harm. I'm looking forward to this because we talked briefly pregame about what your Under the Hood segment was going to be. So it's time now for Under the Hood, brought to you by Mr. Lube.
Yeah, so I was thinking about the Canucks power play since big picture, I think for the last couple months, maybe even since December, they've been struggling a little bit. And one thing that I noticed just watching the unit go to work in the Winnipeg game was that Quinn Hughes seems more reluctant than usual to shoot. And it feels like he's always passing off to the flanks. And because he's not shooting as often, penalty killers aren't necessarily respecting that, and they're cheating to the flanks. And that's part of the reason why it feels like Elias Pettersson, for example, doesn't have as much space to operate with. And so I wanted to look into the data for this. And it turns out, so through the first month of the season, Quinn Hughes, I've got here, had 16 shots in 16 games on the man advantage. So a shot per game, on the power play. Since January 1st, he's only got 7 shots in 21 games on the power play.
That's crazy.
So his shot rate has fallen off a cliff there. And again, I do see it. There's a lot of situations where they'll be snapping the puck around. He gets it up top, and I feel like I can predict, oh, this next pass is going to flank. And if I can predict it, penalty killers can predict it, and it's going to mean the last time in space. Whereas early in the season, it felt like he had the shot first mentality where he was just going to let it fly from distance, especially with some screen setup, and that created some havoc. And at that point, as a penalty killer, you had to sort of be honest. And I think watching the man advantage now, I'd like to see Hughes reestablish the threat of the shot, because I don't think they have that right now.
I think another thing I want to bring up about this, and we'll close out Under the Hood and we'll continue the conversation, because Under the Hood is your segment. So I should tell you that was Under the Hood, brought to you by Mr. Lube, the pioneer of the no appointment warranty approved oil change, now providing appointment-free tire service and sales. Find them at one of their 16 locations across the Lower Mainland. To find your nearest location, visit them online at mrlube.com. Okay, what I wanted to bring up about that, Harmon, I wish I had a whiteboard or I could draw on this TV behind me, and I guess it's not great for the podcast, so I'll explain it. What I've noticed about opposing penalty kills is, yes, you're absolutely right, they're going out to the flanks, but in turn, the defenseman or the third forward, whoever's there, is coming up higher to Hughes, basically leaving the net front open. And then if Hughes snaps it back, you'll see that defense, or that player, whoever the penalty killer is, goes right back to the net front, right? And that's how they kind of take away that lane, is if Hughes goes to the flank, because look, like, Hughes might be able to get a shot through, but like, he's not going to snap a pass to the guy at the net front if the opposing penalty killer is coming up toward him, right? So it's almost like an arrow, like when the flanks go out wide, the middle comes up toward Hughes, if that makes sense.
The perfect example is Lindholm's goal against Carolina.
Yes, that exactly.
Where the net front was, Lindholm was open. There was no one really guarding him. I think it was Hughes in that situation.
It was, yep.
And Lindholm got the tip and they scored.
Exactly. It was almost similar, but not quite, with Besser yesterday, I thought. Like, almost similar, but not quite exactly what we're talking about. The Lindholm thing that you brought up, I'm glad you brought it up. That is exactly what I'm talking about. Like, that is exactly it, is you're seeing them come up high to Hughes to take away the shot, while also taking away the passes with the flanks going out wide. So, look, I would love to see Hughes shooting more, but it's not as if the flanks are being covered and they're daring Hughes to shoot. In a way they are, but they're still coming out high to him. So you got to find new ways to create, because look, like, I don't want to say people have figured out the Canucks power play, but the Canucks power play isn't having trouble scoring just because they're missing something that they had at the start of the year. Teams are making the adjustment, and now it's time for the Canucks power play to make the adjustment.
And it's not just that one thing that, if you fix this one thing,
exactly,
your power play,
doctors hate this one trick,
is solved, because it's been like, there are a number of other factors. I don't think Pettersson's passing has been very sharp.
Yep.
From the flank, I haven't liked, for instance, JT Miller, I think is their best playmaker on the power play. He's year in, year out been a whiz in that situation. He spent a decent chunk of, for example, the Winnipeg game at the net front position. I think that's a waste of his playmaking skills. Whereas you had Brock Besser, who scores the vast majority of his goals in and around the net. He's at the flank, where I don't think he's as dangerous from distance.
No, absolutely not. And this was brought up on Rinkwide as well, and I brought this up to Jeff. Like, I was talking to an NHL executive one time from another team, and he said that He thinks JT Miller is one of the most dangerous players in the league on the half wall from that spot at creating offense. One of the most dangerous in the league. He said he was the most dangerous, but anyways, just something to think about is that the power play formation, like that's the thing is it's not like the power play formation is what's wrong with them right now, but don't move JT Miller out of that spot. Yeah. I also have been liking Niels Höglander on PP2.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's been good. Did you have anything else on the power play that you wanted to get to?
Just briefly, this is not directly tied to the power play, but it sort of ties into, I think, part of the conversation from the Minnesota game. I think Rick Tocchet has been a little bit conservative with using his timeouts. And what I mean by that is obviously in the third period of the Minnesota game, at some point, could it have made sense to try and stop the momentum there, call a timeout, hit the reset button, maybe? But I also thought in the Winnipeg game, the Canucks got a power play. I think it was in the third period. Miller's line and Hughes preceding that were on the ice for a really long offensive zone shift. So they were completely gassed. And in that situation, I was thinking, call your timeout because in this spot, you want your first unit on the ice. I know they haven't been great, but I'd rather have them on the ice than the second unit, which I don't even remember the last time the second unit has scored a goal. They have no shooting threats outside of Hronek. And what are you saving it for, right? Like most games, your timeout doesn't get used. And instead what happened is they didn't call the timeout. They had the second unit out there. The second unit wasted a minute off the clock. That's half your power play right there.
Absolutely. Captain Canuck, good little intro to anyone else. He said, what if we stopped going for one-timers and just got dirty? Remember how many goals they had at the start of the year, just driving the puck to the net and getting those garbage goals? That's where Brock's going to cook, right? Like that's where Brock Besser is going to make his money, earn his paycheck, earn your ice at the net front. I agree. I absolutely agree. Captain Canuck. Canucks Conversation is live Monday through Friday, every weekday at 2 p.m. over on the Canucks Army YouTube channel. Make sure you like, subscribe, and interact in the YouTube live chat every day with us, folks.